My name's Anna, and if you told me that my whole world would shift from just one party, I'd have laughed. Yet, here we are. It was at my college buddy Jenna's birthday bash that I first ran into David. He had this easy charm about him, you know, the kind that could light up a dull room. We got talking over drinks, found out we both had a thing for old-school rock and indie films, and just clicked. Never thought I'd meet someone tonight who'd know more about Tarantino movies than me. He chuckled, handing me a drink. Yeah? Well, prepare to be amazed, buddy. I shot back, the conversation flowing easier than I expected. Before we knew it, hours had passed, and we were still wrapped up in our chat, oblivious to the party dying down around us. That night, something just felt right. David wasn't like the guys I usually met. He listened, really listened, and his laughs weren't just polite chuckles, but genuine bursts of amusement. It was refreshing. Within weeks of that first meet, we were pretty much inseparable, and moving in together seemed like a no-brainer. I had a cozy little house my grandparents left me, nothing fancy, but filled with warmth and memories. David loved it from the get-go. Life with David started off as a dream. We'd spend nights binge-watching series, cooking up exotic dishes we barely knew how to pronounce, and planning all the trips we'd take together. It was bliss until his mom, Evelyn, became a more constant presence in our lives. Evelyn was an interesting mix, always sweet when you spoke to her but fiercely independent. She had this air about her, like she'd seen it all and then some. The first time David introduced me, she gave me a smile that was both welcoming and measuring. "So, you're the girl who's stolen my son's heart," she said, her voice soft yet carrying a weight that made me slightly nervous. "Trying my best, Mrs. K," I responded, unsure how to read her. David had always been upfront about being close to his mom, and I respected that. But it was different, seeing it in action. He'd consult her on everything, from how we arranged the furniture to what we'd eat for dinner if she was around. It was a lot. "Mom knows best, Anna. You'll see, she's got a knack for these things," he'd say every time I raised an eyebrow at their dynamic. I tried not to let it bother me too much. After all, in every other way, David was the perfect partner, supportive, loving, and always making me laugh when I needed it the most. 2 years flew by in what felt like a blink, and David and I tied the knot. It was a simple ceremony, just family and close friends. Everyone said we looked like the perfect couple, and in that moment, I believed it too. We decided to stay in my house, the one I inherited from my grandparents. It had always felt like home to me, and David had fallen in love with its charm. Not long after our wedding, we found out I was pregnant. The news brought a new kind of joy to our lives, and when we shared it with Evelyn, her reaction was unexpectedly warm. "A grandchild, finally," Evelyn exclaimed, her usual reserved demeanor giving way to genuine excitement. "You'll see, children change everything." And change everything she did. Our daughter Lily was born on a chilly spring morning, her cries filling the room with the most beautiful sound either of us had ever heard. "She's perfect, Anna. Just perfect," David said, looking over at Lily with a kind of awe that melted my heart. The first few months were a whirlwind of diapers, late-night feedings, and more love than I thought possible. But as the dust settled and I tried to find a rhythm to our new life, I realized I was doing it almost entirely alone. Evelyn, despite her initial excitement, was conspicuously absent when it came to actual help. One afternoon, feeling overwhelmed, I called Evelyn, hoping she might want to spend some time with her granddaughter. "Evelyn, I was thinking, maybe you could come over and watch Lily for a few hours? Give me a chance to catch up on some sleep or run some errands?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Oh, dear, I'd love to, but I'm just swamped this week." Evelyn's voice was apologetic, but I detected a note of dismissal that wasn't there before Lily's birth. "You're young, Anna. You'll figure it out." I did. I was taken aback, not just by her refusal, but by the implication that asking for help was a sign of weakness. When I told David about the conversation later, hoping for some support, his response only deepened my frustration. "Mom's right, Anna. She raised me mostly on her own, you know. We can manage," he said, not unkindly, but firmly. Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice to have some help? Your mom seemed so excited about Lily. I pressed, feeling the gap in our expectations widening. David shrugged, a gesture that spoke volumes. She was excited about being a grandma, not a babysitter. We'll be fine, Anna. Really? I loved him, and I loved Lily more than life itself, but I couldn't shake the feeling of isolation that crept in with each passing day. I was a marketer by profession, valued at my job, relied upon for my skills and creativity. Yet at home, I felt increasingly like I was expected to be a superwoman, capable of managing everything without falter. Life with a toddler was a beautiful chaos, but after 3 years of sleepless nights and endless days, the walls of our home seemed to close in on me. I needed a change of scenery, badly. That's when I got the idea for a family vacation to Italy. David, what do you think about taking a trip to Italy this summer? I asked one evening as we were cleaning up after dinner. Lily was at my feet, playing with her toys, blissfully unaware of my growing wanderlust. Italy, huh? David looked up, surprised but intrigued. That sounds amazing, babe. Lily would love it too, her first big trip. Excitement bubbled inside me as I pulled up some travel blogs on my laptop, showing him pictures of the Amalfi Coast, Rome, and Venice. We could visit the beaches, see some historical sites, and just relax. It'd be good for us, don't you think? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. He agreed, his enthusiasm matching mine. But just as I was about to start looking into flights and accommodations, he added, we should tell my mom about this. She hasn't been anywhere in years, remember? The mention of Evelyn slightly dampened my spirits, not because I disliked her, but because I knew what her joining might imply for our vacation dynamics. Still, I nodded. Sure, let's tell her. She might enjoy it. The next day, we invited Evelyn over for coffee to break the news. As soon as we mentioned Italy, her face lit up, then just as quickly fell. Oh, Italy. I haven't been anywhere for so long. She sighed, a hint of sadness in her voice. David jumped in before I could say anything. Mom, why don't you come with us? It'd be great to have you along. Evelyn's eyes widened with delight, then she turned to me. Would that be all right with you, Anna? I don't want to impose. I mustered my warmest smile, despite the reservations churning in my stomach. Of course, Evelyn. It'd be lovely to have you join us. Evelyn hugged me, her gratitude genuine. Oh, thank you, dear. This means the world to me. Later that night, as I lay in bed browsing through hotel options, the reality of the costs began to sink in. A family room for 4 was significantly cheaper than separate accommodations, but it still stretched our budget. David, we might need to cut back on some of the outings to make this work financially, I murmured, showing him the figures on my screen. Don't worry, babe. You always figure things out, he replied, his tone reassuring yet absent, as if the details were just minor nuisances that would sort themselves out. I sighed, closing my laptop. Managing this trip was turning into a project, but the thought of seeing Italy, of watching Lily play on foreign beaches, kept my spirits up. I'd make it work, somehow. After all, wasn't that what I always did? One evening, I spread out all the travel brochures and budget sheets across the kitchen table, trying to make sense of our finances. David wandered in, grabbing a soda from the fridge. Looks like a command center in here, he joked, taking in the chaos of papers and maps. Feels like one too, I replied, not quite sharing his humor. I'm trying to figure out how we can afford the extra costs for your mom without skimping too much on our actual vacation. David popped the tab on his soda, taking a sip before responding. Well, she's really excited, Anna. Maybe we can just do fewer touristy things. Spend more time relaxing instead? I nodded, though the thought of cutting back on the experiences I had been dreaming of stung a bit. Yeah, maybe. Also, I need to sort out something for Evelyn's pets. She doesn't want to leave them alone. Oh, right, David said, his brow furrowing slightly. What's the plan? I'm thinking of asking Rachel to look after them. I'll have to see if she's available and willing to handle Evelyn's zoo, I said, only half joking. Later that week, I caught up with my friend Rachel at a local cafe to discuss the pet-sitting situation. Rachel had always been the go-to for favors like this, but I knew it was a big ask. So, I hate to be a pain, but I have a huge favor to ask, I started, stirring my coffee nervously. Rachel smiled, her easygoing nature a comfort. Shoot. What do you need? It's about the Italy trip. Evelyn's coming with us, and I need someone to take care of her puppy and 2 cats. Could you, maybe help out? I asked, hopeful, but feeling the imposition. Rachel paused, then nodded. Sure, I can do that. Just show me what needs to be done. How long are you guys gone? 2 weeks. And you'd be a lifesaver, really. Evelyn's pretty particular about her pets, I explained, feeling a mix of relief and guilt. No problem. I'll come by a few days before you leave, get the rundown. We'll make sure her little critters are well looked after, Rachel assured me, her tone confident. With the pet situation handled, I turned my attention back to the travel plans. I spent the next few days booking flights, arranging for the family room at the hotel, and tweaking our itinerary to fit the budget. Each evening, David would glance over my shoulder, offering a nod or a simple, looks good, before turning his attention back to whatever was on TV. The day before our departure, I checked and double-checked our luggage, ensuring we had everything needed for Lily and Evelyn. The stress was mounting, and I felt stretched thin. The trouble with my mother-in-law, Evelyn, began long before we even landed in Italy. It started right there on the plane. We were barely an hour into the flight when Evelyn's patience seemed to wear thin. Lily, my 3-year-old daughter, was a little restless. It was her first long flight after all. David, can't you keep her quiet? People are trying to rest. Evelyn hissed across the aisle to us, her voice laced with irritation. David looked at me, his face apologetic, but his response directed at soothing his mother rather than defending our daughter. Mom's right, Anna. Maybe get Lily to settle down a bit? I bit my lip, holding back my frustration as I tried to distract Lily with her favorite book. Lily, sweetie, let's look at your book, okay? The moment the plane touched down in Italy, a mixed wave of relief and excitement washed over me, despite the earlier tensions. We made it, despite the logistical nightmares, the long flight, and a fussy toddler. As we shuffled through the crowded airport, the reality of being in a new country began to sink in. Mama, look. Big planes! Lily exclaimed, pressing her tiny face against the terminal window, momentarily distracted from her previous crankiness. Yes, sweetheart, lots of big planes here, I replied, trying to muster as much enthusiasm as I felt drained after the overnight flight. We managed to gather our luggage and navigate to the shuttle that would take us to our hotel on the coast. The drive offered stunning views of rolling hills and the glistening Mediterranean Sea, which should have lightened the mood, but Evelyn seemed less than impressed. It's so hot here. And why is everything so dusty? Evelyn complained, fanning herself with one of the travel brochures. I exchanged a quick glance with David, hoping he'd help keep his mother's spirits up. Well, Mom, it's Italy in the summer. It's part of the charm, he said, trying to sound cheerful. When we finally arrived at the hotel, the beauty of the old building with its ivy-covered walls and panoramic sea views struck me. I hoped this would lift everyone's spirits. Here we are, I announced. Let's check in and get settled. The lobby was cool and inviting, a welcome respite from the heat. As we approached the front desk, I handled the check-in process, confirming our reservation for a family room. Evelyn peered over my shoulder as I spoke with the receptionist. Make sure we have separate rooms, Anna. I need my space, especially after that flight, she whispered harshly into my ear. I paused, taken aback by her tone. Evelyn, I booked a family suite. It's spacious, and I thought. I don't care what you thought. I told you I needed my own room, Evelyn interrupted, her voice stern. The receptionist, catching the tension, quickly interjected. I'm sorry, but we are fully booked at the moment. I can put you on a waiting list for a separate room, and we might have one available in a couple of days. Evelyn huffed, clearly not satisfied. Fine. I suppose I'll have to manage until then. We made our way to our suite, which was beautifully decorated and overlooked the sea. I thought it was perfect. Look at this view, Evelyn. It's not every day we get to see something like this. I tried to lighten the mood as we entered the room. Evelyn, however, was already inspecting the bedrooms, her displeasure evident. I guess it'll have to do. But I expect that separate room as soon as it's available, she stated, making no effort to hide her annoyance. Of course, Evelyn. I'll make sure of it, I assured her, feeling the tension rise. 2 days after we arrived in Italy, Evelyn finally moved into her own room. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking maybe now we could all enjoy a bit of what this vacation was supposed to offer. But the tension didn't dissipate as I'd hoped, it just shifted. The very next morning, at breakfast with all the hotel guests milling around, Evelyn dropped another bomb. Lily, stop calling me grandma in public. It makes me feel old. Just use my name, she said sharply, right in front of everyone. Lily looked at me, her big eyes filling with confusion and hurt. I was floored. Evelyn, she's just a child. She's excited to be with you. I tried to keep my voice even, but the sting of her words bit deep. Evelyn waved a dismissive hand. I'm here to relax, Anna, not to play the doting grandmother. You need to respect that. My frustration mounted, but before I could respond, David chimed in. Mom's right, Anna. Let's just keep things light. We're on holiday. His words felt like a betrayal. Not wanting to make a scene, I swallowed my anger and nodded, though inside, I was reeling. The next incident came a few days later. I woke up to find both David and Evelyn missing. Confused, I asked the receptionist, who informed me that they had rented a car and gone out for the day. They hadn't even bothered to tell me or invite us. When they returned in the evening, arms laden with shopping bags filled with high-end fashion and jewelry, the exclusion felt deliberate. They were chatting and laughing, caught up in their own little world. Look at this, Anna, isn't it gorgeous? Evelyn flaunted a new necklace, the price tag of which could have funded our entire family's meals for days. I bit my lip, forcing a smile. It's lovely, Evelyn. David then showed off some of his new clothes, completely oblivious to my growing dismay. Got some great stuff today. That's when I noticed the logos. This wasn't just any shopping spree, it was extravagance at its peak. Panic set in. David, how did you pay for all this? I asked, my voice tight. His face fell slightly. Oh, I used the joint account. It was easier. The joint account, our savings for emergencies and significant expenses, not luxury shopping. You used our savings to buy all this? My voice cracked, the betrayal hitting me like a physical blow. David's response was defensive. Why not? We're on vacation, Anna. Why can't we indulge a little? A little? I shot back, my temper flaring. You didn't think to discuss it with me first? And what about Lily and me? You didn't think to include us in your plans today, or even buy something small for your daughter? Evelyn, ever the ally to her son, interjected sharply. Oh, stop being so greedy, Anna. You're ruining the holiday with your nagging. Greedy? Nagging? The words stung, and I felt utterly isolated. From then on, David and Evelyn did their own thing, more shopping, fancy dinners, while Lily and I were left to make our own plans. That morning I woke up to an unusual silence, a cold, empty space where David usually slept. Frantically, I checked around, only to find his side of the room perfectly tidy, his belongings gone. My heart pounded as I raced to Evelyn's room, fearing the worst. The door swung open to an empty room, her bags missing, no signs of her ever being there. Panicking, I grabbed my phone and dialed David's number, then Evelyn's. No answer. Lily stirred in her bed, her sleepy eyes searching. Mommy, where's Daddy? Let's find him, sweetie. I tried to reassure her, masking the tremor in my voice. But as minutes turned into hours with no return calls, Lily's soft whimpers grew into desperate cries. I want Daddy. Just then, my phone rang. It was David. His voice was eerily calm, chillingly distant. "We're at the airport, Anna. Mom needs to go home. She's tired of the vacation, tired of the constant complaints and..." He paused, his words twisting the knife. "Your greed." In the background, I could hear Evelyn's biting voice. "She's ruined everything with her selfish ways." "How could you?" I gasped into the phone, my voice a blend of anger and heartbreak. "How could you leave us here, in a foreign country? How could you choose her over your own daughter?" David's reply was cold, final. "My mother is the most important person to me. She needs me." "You'll manage, you always do." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, numb, then turned to see Lily's tear-streaked face. Anger surged through me, not just for me, but for my little girl, abandoned by the person she adored. In that moment, a plan formed, born from the wreckage of our ruined vacation. I called Rachel, my friend back home taking care of Evelyn's pets. Through clenched teeth, I explained everything. "Rachel, are you at Evelyn's house now?" "Yes, I'm just about to leave," she replied, her voice tinged with concern. "Leave the pets out of the utility room. Open all the doors. Let's see how tidy Evelyn finds her home when she returns," I said, the words bitter, but strangely empowering. "Are you sure?" Rachel hesitated. "Yes. Do it. Then don't go back tomorrow. She needs to see what it's like when someone she relies on lets her down," I insisted, the plan crystallizing with each word. Rachel did as I asked, freeing the energetic puppy and the curious cats into the pristine environment of Evelyn's house. We ended the call with a shared, dark chuckle, imagining the chaos that would greet Evelyn upon her return. The late afternoon sun was dipping below the horizon when my phone erupted with an angry call from David. His voice was livid, strained through exhaustion and frustration. "Anna, we can't get into Mom's house. Your friend isn't answering her phone, and we're locked out. Our flight was delayed, we're tired and just want to get in." I could hear the fatigue in his voice, but my patience had worn thin. "That sounds like a problem you'll have to sort out yourselves, David. I'm not your keeper." A few hours later, Evelyn herself called, her voice shrill and frantic. "Anna, this house is a disaster. The puppy has destroyed everything. There's poop on my bed, my shoes are chewed up, and the furniture's torn apart. It stinks, and we can't even stay here." She was nearly hysterical, the background noise of David's futile attempts to calm her adding to the chaos. "And to top it off, the rescue service won't let us in without the house documents, which, guess what, your little stunt got destroyed too," she continued, barely pausing to catch her breath. I responded with as much calm as I could muster. "Evelyn, I am still on vacation. You need to handle this. Maybe check into a hotel for the night?" She was furious. "You expect us to go to a hotel? I want you to call your security company right now and get them to open your house. We're coming there." I stood firm, the edge in my voice sharp as a knife. "No, Evelyn. I won't do that. You made your choice, and now you can deal with the consequences." A week later, I returned home, bracing myself for the confrontation I knew was inevitable. Sure enough, David and Evelyn were waiting at my doorstep, their faces stormy. "You've crossed the line, Anna. I'm filing for divorce," David shouted before I even had a chance to set down my bags. I sighed, more relieved than upset. "I was going to suggest the same thing, David." His anger faltered, replaced by a stunned silence. Evelyn tried to chime in, her words laced with venom. "You're nothing without us, Anna. You'll regret this." Ignoring her, I turned to David. "Pack your things. You need to leave. Now." The gravity of my words hung heavy in the air. David, finally seeing the resolve in my eyes, nodded slowly and went inside. Evelyn, her face a mask of rage, followed him without another word. They moved out that evening. The divorce proceedings were brief. David and I had little to contest, and it was clear we both wanted it over with. He went back to live with his mother, and that was that. Now, as I sit in the quiet of the home I fought to protect, I realize I've regained more than just my independence. I've reclaimed my peace, my dignity, and a life where I no longer have to compromise my happiness for someone else's selfishness.